So recently I was out to dinner and I was having a conversation with a gentleman. This gentleman knows that I am a believer. He knows that I have an evangelist calling on my life. He knows that I'm very resolved in who I serve and who I am as a believer in Jesus Christ. And so the conversation was getting pretty, thick, and that's okay. We weren't arguing, we weren't debating. But he did say that I should meet his brother because his brother is an agnostic. And agnostic is basically one who believes that there is a higher power. There's just not, one God to attribute that power to just sum it up. And I was like, well, I don't debate. I'm resolved. He was like, oh, he wouldn't debate you or anything like that. He would just say, here's this cup. I could see it. I could feel it, blah, blah, blah. I know this cup exists. How do you know your God exists? And I told him, I said, well, I would tell him breath. I said, trace your breath back and see where it begins, right? Breath is not an element. Oxygen is an element, right? So when we look at Genesis 2:7, it says, then the Lord God formed the man out of dust from the ground and then breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, and the man became a living being. The breath of life comes from the giver of life, who is God, the true and living God. I have not heard of any other little g gods being able to create life, give life, begin life, right? So that's why I'm resolved that not only my God is real, but he is the true and living God, and there's no one above him. He's immeasurable. He is God the Creator. He is Yahweh. He is the great I am. And he exists not only out here, but in me. That's what I would tell him. If anybody asks you, maybe you should ask them. Take a deep breath. Tell me where that came from. Because if it was just oxygen, then why didn't Adam just begin breathing? He couldn't. Not until the breath of life was breathed in his nostrils. Life begins with God.